Okay, Anjane. Who's going first? Anjane?
Yes, can I start?
Yes,
Yes?
please.
Yes, Dr. Bahasi.
Thank you, Anjane. Yes, please do.
Most welcome. Thy name is my healing, oh my God, and remembrance of thee is my remedy. Nearness to thee is my hope, and love for thee is my companion. Thy mercy to me is my healing and my circle in both this world and the world to come. Thou verily, the all bountiful, the all knowing, the all wise.
Thou seest, O my Lord, my dwelling place in the heart of this mountain, and thou dost witness my forbearance. Verily, I have desired naught else but thy love, and the love of those who love thee. How can I extol the effulgent beauty of thy lordship, conscious as I am of my nothingness before the habitation of thy glory? Yet the sorrow of solitude and loneliness prompteth me to invoke thee through this prayer. Perchance thy trusted servants may become aware of my lamentations, may supplicate unto thee on my behalf, and thou wouldst graciously answer their prayers as a token of thy grace and thy favor. I bear witness that there is no God but thee, inasmuch as thou art invested with sovereignty, grandeur, glory, and power which no one among thy servants can visualize or comprehend. Indeed, thou shalt, by virtue of that which is inherent in thine essence, ever remain inscrutable unto all except thyself.
Thank you, AJ. Thank you, Anjane. Very nice. Okay, so last time we went through, was it paragraph 10? About Saleh, right? But we could not finish the explanation because of the time. So perhaps somebody who is a quick reader may read that paragraph quickly again so we can move on. Anyone, please.
You mean paragraph 10?
Paragraph 10, yes, please.
May we have a volunteer?
Go on, who is it? Who's going to read? Anyone, or should I?
Maybe you can ask someone to read, Dr. Beheshti. I'm sure they would be happy to hear.
Here, Farana Khanum appeared on the screen. Can you do it, Farana Khanum?
Sure. And after him there appeared from the Rizwan of the Eternal, the Invisible, the holy person of Saleh, who again summoned the people to the river of everlasting life. For over 100 years, he admonished them to hold fast unto the commandments of God and eschew that which is forbidden. His admonitions, however, yielded no fruit, and his pleading proved of no avail. Several times he retired and lived in seclusion. All this, although that eternal beauty was summoning the people to no other than the city of God. Even as it is revealed, and unto the tribe of Samud we sent their brother Saleh. O my people, said he, worship God, ye have none other God beside him. They made reply, O Saleh, our hopes were fixed on thee until now. Forbidden thou us to worship that which our father worshippeth? Truly we misdoubt that whereunto thou callest us as suspicious. All this proved fruitless until at last there went up a great cry, and all fell unto utter perdition.
Thank you. Yes. So this paragraph is, he says, after him, which was Hud, Prophet Hud, we discussed last time. Prophet Hud appeared in Arabia, in the Arabian Peninsula, in the south, amongst the people of Ad. And Saleh appeared in the same region amongst the people of Samud or Thamud. They were called Thamud tribe or tribes, and we will read in a little bit about them soon, the notes I have prepared. So we will know more about Thamud people, Thamud tribe. Okay, and last time we read what the Rizwan meant, the Rizwan, which was, and you all have the notes, it's, the meaning is paradise, and also in the Islamic tradition, it's believed to be the name of the custodian of paradise. But also, it's the name given to the Rizwan, to the Najibiya Pasha Garden in Iraq, in Baghdad, where Baha'u'llah declared his mission openly, and also to the Rizwan Garden, which is totally different to that one, and it's in the outskirts of Akka. That's a little garden where Baha'u'llah used to go and spend a day or two while he was residing in the mansion of Bahji. And we read a little bit about Saleh himself. He is said to have lived 120 years, and he pleaded people to start disbelieving in idol worshipping and believe in one God, but his his teachings to these people did not bear any fruit at all, and people were all against him until the wrath of God, like in the case of Noah and Prophet Hud, an earthquake came and it destroyed them to perdition. We also read about crimson and what is meant by crimson ark. Of course, crimson literally is a red color, a deep red color is called to be crimson. But also in the Bible, it symbolizes the presence of God and the blood of martyrs. And red color also represents fire, warmth, and as well as power. So Baha'u'llah calls his own cause the Crimson Arc. And the people who are the followers of the cause of Baha'u'llah, he calls them the companions of the Crimson Arc. And then we read one of the paragraphs about the one of the quotations of Baha'u'llah, that he talks about blessed is that king who believes in his faith and he starts expanding and teaching his faith. And he says that he would be, that king would be including, will be numbered with the companions of the Crimson Arc. On one hand, he says he will have the same station as the Baha'is. On the other hand, he says that that king who is an active believer, then all the people, all the other Baha'is should do everything to help him spread his cause, even to the point of sacrificing their lives for him, he says. So that was about it. And then we talked about Saleh's tomb, where he is buried. Those of you who have been to Akka, you know that there are few cemeteries there that has got connection with the faith in Akka. One is this cemetery near the land gate through which Baha'u'llah left Akka. You know, he entered the sea gate and then he left Akka to go to the mansion of Bahji through the land gate. And it is just close to the land gate. The shrine of Saleh is traditionally believed to be there. I have seen it. I don't know if anybody who has been serving there or visited Akka have seen it. And very next to it was the remains of Mirza Mehdi, the purest branch. You know, he passed away during the first 2 years when they were in the prison. He fell from the roof and then he was buried in that cemetery next to Nabi Saleh's tomb. In 1939, the Guardian moved his remains from there to the Monument Garden in Haifa. At the same time, Nawab Asiya Khanum's remains, the mother of Abdul Baha, who was also buried in another cemetery very near Nabi Saleh's cemetery, and she was also moved to Haifa and buried in Monument Garden. Both of them were buried next to the grave of the greatest holy leaf, Baha'u'llah Khanum, so that they were near each other. This was the wish of the greatest holy leaf, and so it was fulfilled by the Guardian. Now, we'll move on to read a little bit more about the other phrases mentioned in this paragraph. For example, the city of God. What is meant by the city of God? Would anyone want to tell us about it? Or shall we read my notes? if somebody reads it, you know, on the left of my screen, it says City of God. Someone? No? Who do I know there? Sultan, Roya, Louis, anyone?
Is it City of God talking about where the heart of people, which I don't know,
Uh-huh.
something of that, keep the city of the heart of people open so that God could reside in there.
Uh-huh. The heart of people. I suppose, I don't know, what do you think? What others think about that? I suppose it is where their faith descends into. The heart of the people is where the faith eventually ends up.
Is it like City of God? Is it like he was bringing them to God?
Yes.
So closer to the God.
Yeah.
But they didn't accept that. They wanted to be remaining on earth and material things.
Absolutely. That is one thing that would fit in. But anyway, if someone reads this, it might explain a little bit. I've taken the notes from different places. Some are quotations from Baha'u'llah, Abdul Baha. There are numerous quotations on this very subject, City of God, but also mainly from the book of Mr. Dunbar, the companion to the study of Iran. So let's just read that and perhaps then see if it needs any explanation or any opinion that you might have, that we can move on.
I'm okay to read. Okay, you go ahead.
Angie, come on then. Good.
Oh no, I was just saying if there weren't any other volunteers, I'd be happy to read at any time, but I think someone's volunteering and I've already read.
Wonderful. So. I think everybody thinks that. So if you guys think you want to read it, please do.
Go ahead.
Makes everybody happy.
City of God. There are numerous references to the City of God in the Baha'i writings. Baha'u'llah, hasten forth and circumambulate the City of God that hath descended from heaven, the celestial Kaaba, round which have circled in adoration the favored of God, the pure in heart, and the company of the most exalted angels. Do I continue?
Okay, I think we better have a little explanation about this stuff. This paragraph, the first one you read, Sally, it says, hasten forth, it's addressing, Baha'u'llah is addressing Mount Carmel. It's in the tablet of Carmel. Yeah? And it's telling the mountain to circumambulate the city of God, which is his faith, Baha'u'llah's cause, right? Or do you understand differently?
The phrase City of God for me brings the memory of Augustine, St. Augustine's City of God.
Yes.
He was writing, in the 4th century,
Yes.
and referring to the city of God, a pure city of holiness, of righteous deeds, as compared to the city of man, kind of like a mirror image of it, which is worst excesses, lowest animal natures, being allowed to run free in society in that city, whereas kind of the city of God is the kingdom of God, that kind of image, a city of holiness. So I think that could also link to what Baha'u'llah's message and his covenant is seeking to bring about.
Yes, sure, sure. And the second little paragraph you read, Sally, it says the clay clods of the world. Clay clods means like the clay stone. And I personally think he's referring to the believers, because we are the meek and the lowly are the ones who really, when the manifestation of God appears, they are the ones who start believing in the faith and then gradually spread it. And eventually the prominent people become followers at later date.
Sorry, Beheshti, we didn't read that yet, the second paragraph, so perhaps we could just
Oh, we didn't read that.
No,
No.
first one.
Sorry, I wasn't giving attention. Sorry, Sally, read it then. Okay, Sally, you want to read that second paragraph then?
Okay. The clay clods of the world have set forth to visit the embellished, the luminous, the crimson city of God, and certain emissaries from Persia are secretly stirring up mischief, though to outward seeming they pretend to be gentle and meek.
Yeah. I could not find, I found this in the tablet of Baha'u'llah, but I could not find who, the detail of it, who is addressing to and what was the occasion of. If any one of you know it, or you can find out, perhaps you can share it with us. It appears that it may have been in Adarne or somewhere like that, where he's talking about the emissaries, the envoy or ambassador or whoever from Persia. Because then we know that the ambassador of Iran in Baghdad and in Turkey, they caused a lot of trouble to Baha'u'llah. So clay clods, do you agree that he's referring to the ordinary believers, the low and meekly? There is a story I read, I think again it was in Revelation of Baha'u'llah, that while Baha'u'llah was in the mansion of Bahji, a father and a son, both of whom they were great scholars, erudite persons, who became Baha'is from Iran, and they went to visit Baha'u'llah. And they were given a house in Bahji, near the mansion of Bahji. And one day Baha'u'llah went to their house to visit them. And after spending some time with them, he said goodbye. And as he was going, both father and the son wanted to follow him. And Baha'u'llah bade them to stay back and don't follow him. And the son was looking at Baha'u'llah from behind as he was walking away. And it just crossed his mind. He thought to himself, this majesty, this greatness, this figure of Baha'u'llah, if only the kings and the rulers of the world would come and see him and then help to spread his faith. It just crossed his mind. He didn't mention it to anyone. The next day, he was in the presence of Baha'u'llah. And Baha'u'llah just turned to him and he said, today is the turn for the low and the meekly to be in the presence of the manifestation of God. And the time for the kings and the rulers will come in future. If they were to become faithful believers, then people like you would not have a chance. And I think it goes for us as well, because in this day and age, we are lucky to be able to serve in any capacity we can in his cause. Because if tomorrow the prominent people become the followers, then we won't probably have a chance to do what we have today. I thought I mentioned this. You may have read that story. So this is this clay cloths. In Farsi, I think it says cloth is koluch, means a stones made of clay. Okay. If you have anything to share, please do. Otherwise, we go ahead. Shall we? Sally, you want to continue the next paragraph? Abdul Baha?
What the sacred scriptures most often mean by the holy city or divine Jerusalem is the religion of God. Whoops, sorry. Which has at times been likened to a bride or called Jerusalem, or depicted as the new heaven and the new earth. Clearly, the new Jerusalem, which descends from heaven, is not a city of stone and lime, of brick and mortar, but is rather the religion of God, which descends from heaven and is described as new. For it is obvious that the Jerusalem, which is built of stone and mortar, does not descend from heaven and is not renewed, but that what is renewed is the religion of God.
Okay, so this is quite obvious, right? And very logical reason of Abdul Baha. So clearly, city of God, divine Jerusalem, and things like that we see in the writings refers to the cause of God, religion of God. Yep. Okay. Next one, please.
O ye beloved of God, O ye children of his kingdom, verily, verily, the new heaven and the new earth are come. The holy city, New Jerusalem, hath come down from on high in the form of a maid of heaven, veiled, beauteous, and unique, and prepared for reunion with her lovers on earth. The angelic company of the celestial concourse hath joined in a call that hath rung throughout the universe, all loudly and mightily acclaiming, this is the city of God, and his abode, wherein shall dwell the pure and holy among his servants. He shall live with them, for they are his people, and he is their Lord.
Okay. So Abdul Baha is telling us that this holy city, this Jerusalem, is the religion that Baha'u'llah has brought down to earth for us. Yes. And the angelic company of the celestial concourse had joined in a call that had rung throughout the universe. I don't think Baha'u'llah has left any excuse for anybody, because he's written to almost all the rulers and the heads of the countries of the world. And it's been publicized, widely from the beginning. The Western people, through Western people, Eastern people, it has been, but there is no excuse, because it's loudly, Abdul Baha says, throughout the universe, not only from the point of view spiritually, but also physically. It's announced loudly and mightily throughout the world. Any ideas you want to share on this paragraph? Anybody?
I have a question. This is talking about a maid of heaven, and we've seen there are many other quotes in the writings regarding the maid of heaven. Does it have different meanings in different writings, or the same meaning?
Wonderful question. Anybody? Anyone has an answer to that, please? Or ideas, your own idea? Maid of heaven. What does that remind us of?
I have a quick
Point.
I think that the Maid of Heaven is I don't know, an abstract way referring to that same divine will and of God. So it's similar to the manifestation of God. And I think when Baha'u'llah tells of receiving his message in the Siyah Chal, and that's the Maid of Heaven, bring it to him, it's not really a Maid of Heaven. It's still part of the same essence that Baha'u'llah is, from this same place where all the manifestations of God have their unique, where they're all the same in that same essence. So it's just a way of saying something, but I think it's the same essence as a manifestation of God, which is them themselves. If that makes any sense.
Of course, it is the Spirit of God that comes down through them. Yes, beautiful. And each of these messengers, they had a word similar to that for it. Can somebody tell us, like in Christianity or Islam? Yeah? Gabriel, for example, Gabriel, and what else?
The burning bush for Moses.
Burning bush with Moses.
The dove, the bird of heaven, or the dove for Jesus.
Yes, yes.
Trying to think of some other.
They are all the call of God that comes through these messengers, through these manifestations. Yeah? Anyone else has anything on that?
Could it be the companies of the messengers of God? Those
Yes.
who accompany, or they've done good here and they've gone.
Yeah. Where he says the celestial concourse in that paragraph, Roya John, I think you're meaning that the celestial concourse, it's a gathering of the souls of these prominent people, prominent figures, spiritual figures, are the gathering of these together that had joined in that call, he says. Yes, absolutely, Roya. Okay. So while you are there, Roya John, maybe you want to read what Shoghi Effendi says in the next one. The last...
Sorry, I don't mind to read from the Íqán book, but from the screen, I'm on the phone. On my phone, it's going to be very small.
Can you see it on your screen? It's small, huh?
Well, I have to enlarge it.
Okay, read it from your, oh, you don't have your, okay.
Well, yeah, if you ask me from Iqán to read, I will do
Oh,
anything.
okay, Royajan. Then Anjay, maybe you want to read this for us. You volunteer. This one, Shoghi Effendi.
Sorry, who did you ask? Was it Anjali?
Anjay?
Oh, AJ.
AJ, sorry, did I say? AJ. Are you
Yep.
there, AJ?
I can read. May the
Go on, AJ.
yeah.
Yeah, show
May
me.
the Shoghi Effendi, may the assembled believers, now but a tiny nucleus of the Baha'i Commonwealth of the future, so exemplify that spirit of universal love and fellowship as to evoke in the minds of their associates the vision of that future city of God, which the almighty arm of Baha'u'llah can alone establish.
Sorry, here in Turkey, we have 5 times a day this call of azan that goes on with a loudspeaker. I had the door open, so I closed it. It doesn't disturb us. Okay, yes. Ajay, can you perhaps explain this to us? Again, he mentions the city of God here.
Yes, if we consider the city of God to be a goal of a new society, a more holy, spiritually enlightened society, I think the Guardian here is calling for the current Baha'i community to look forward and to be hopeful and to strive towards representing the spirit of unity and fellowship, that high ideal that is described in the stories of the city of God. We can actually represent it in our own way here, even though the ultimate Baha'i Commonwealth that is to come in the future, we're just a shadow of that in terms of how great that will be.
Yes.
And that can be done alone, only through following the guiding of Baha'u'llah.
Yes, exactly, yes. Yes. Though we seem to be small, a community at this time, but it's like the, what do you call it, the seed that this huge world civilization as the city of God in future is going to develop from it. That's great. Okay, I thought I did a little bit about this Kaaba, which is mentioned in one of the writings that Baha'u'llah mentions it here, in the writing that we read, wherever it was in the writing of Baha'u'llah that he mentioned, that quotation we read about the addressing Carmel. Where was it?
It's further down, I think, where it says 10. If you go down there, 10, city of God, right there.
Yeah. Is the celestial Kaaba, which refers to his own cause over here. Now, why has he used Kaaba? Kaaba is the holy place, the most holy place in Islam. I have just noted a little bit about it over here, and maybe somebody just reads it, it'll self-explain. Go on, please. Who shall we ask? Is Kayvon here? Is Kayvon on? Aghay Shahriari.
Yes, yes, I am here.
Kayvon, I caught you. Come on then, read it.
So, paragraph, remind me again, 11?
I think I want you to read the
Oh,
note.
the Kaaba, the explanation of the Kaaba, right?
Yes, that's
Yes.
Here we are.
The Kaaba is a building at the center of Islam's most important mosque, the Great Mosque of Mecca, the sacred mosque, in the Hijazi city of Mecca, Saudi Arabia. It is the most sacred site in Islam. It is considered by Muslims to be the Bayt Allah, house of God. Its location determines the Qibla, the point of adoration, direction of prayer. Wherever they are in the world, Muslims face the Kaaba when performing the 5 times a day obligatory prayer. It was originally built by Abraham and his son, Ishmael, in around 2000 BC as the first house of worship on earth. Verily, the first house of worship appointed for mankind was that at Mecca, full of blessing and guidance for mankind. From the Quran. Tradition holds that Kaaba was originally a simple, unroofed, rectangular stone structure. The Quraysh tribe who ruled Mecca rebuilt the pre-Islamic Kaaba in 608 AC with alternating courses of masonry and wood. The Kaaba is a cuboid stone structure room made of granite. It's approximately 13.1 meters tall with sides measuring 11.03 meters. Inside the Kaaba, the floor is made of marble and limestone. The interior walls, measuring 13 meters by 9 meters, are clad with tiles. White marble halfway to the roof with darker trimming along the floor. The floor of the interior stands about 2.2 meters above the ground area where tawaf, circumambulation, is performed. Every Muslim is able to do so. Who is able to do so is required to visit Mecca to perform the Hajj pilgrimage at least once in their lifetime. Multiple parts of the Hajj require pilgrims to make tawaf, circumambulation 7 times counterclockwise around the Kaaba. The most significant time is during the Hajj when millions of pilgrims gather to circle the building during a 5-day period.
Okay. I thought this may be of some interest, these few points about Kaaba. You know, where millions of Muslims every year go for Hajj in Saudi Arabia, in Mecca. That is what it is. It was originally a solid cube stone that was believed by tradition to have been built by Abraham and his son Ishmael. But since then, it's been rebuilt into a room. It's a room, and I thought this little description of the room is quite unusual, but people don't know about it. Maybe you wanted to know, so I put it there. And of course, it's the duty of every Muslim to go on pilgrimage if they can afford it every year, and they do that. Okay? Anybody wants to add to that?
Sally?
What I find interesting is that nowadays only Muslims are allowed legally to be in and around the city of Mecca to visit the Kaaba. As a non-Muslim, there's no way that you can visit there. It would be very dangerous for you, as far as I know, to be there.
Yes.
Pretending you're a Muslim. But then I don't know since when that rule was applied, but then knowing that His Holiness the Bab was there, not only as someone who said that he went there as a Muslim, of course, but also that he announced that he was the new manifestation of God. I mean, I cannot imagine anyone doing that without being put to death nowadays. So that's quite amazing.
Yes. And it applies to Medina as well. I think both Mecca and Medina, only Muslims are allowed to enter those two cities.
Sally?
I just have a quick question. This says every Muslim, is it just men that are required to go on the pilgrimage, or men and women both?
I think women go as well, yes.
Okay.
Yes. Okay, so now I put something about Thamud, where Saleh appeared. So we'll read that as well. And if you have any points you want to mention, please do. Remember, we talked about the 5 prophets that are mentioned in Quran, and they all appeared in Arabian Peninsula. And Saleh is one of those 5 prophets that appeared amongst the people called Samud. They were a tribe or tribes of people. And then they settled down in a place, and that place became known as Samud in Saudi Arabia. And it is I think it's quite near, it's in the north, and it's quite near Mecca. But you can look it up in the map. I've got a map on this page, I'll show you in a minute. So, okay, somebody else read this, please.
I'm happy to read, if anybody else.
Ushan, very good.
Should I do the Persian pronunciation or the Arabic one? Samud or Thamud?
Do it both. Say which one is what, yes.
I'll do the English way.
Yeah.
The Thamud is an ancient civilization in the Hijaz, known from the 8th century BCE to near the time of Muhammad. The Thamud civilization was located in the north of the Arabian Peninsula. There are 7 countries located completely on the Arabian Peninsula: Saudi Arabia, Yemen, Oman, Kuwait, Qatar, Bahrain, and the United Arab Emirates. Thamud, the people of the Prophet Salah, the next generation after the people of Ad, of Prophet Hud, who were destroyed with similar wrath of God, were also deeply rooted in idolatry, polytheism, and destruction on earth. Hijaz is a region in the west of Saudi Arabia, and is significant for being the location of the Islamic holy cities of Mecca and Medina, the first and second holiest sites in Islam respectively. As the site of the 2 holiest cities in Islam, the Hijaz has significance in the Arab and Islamic historical and political landscape. The Hijaz is the most populated region in Saudi Arabia, containing 35% of the population of Saudi Arabia. Shall I continue?
Yes, please, go ahead.
Mr. Dunbar, in his book, A Companion to the Study of Íqán, writes that the Thamud tribe, or group of tribes, lived in northern Arabia, principally in Hijr, up to the southern border of Syria. They inhabited dwellings cut in the sides of mountains. Thamudi inscriptions are found all over Arabia, and indicate a unity of language and religion, which suggests that once the tribe's authority extended further, especially in northern and central Arabia. Although other references and the old Arabian Peninsula map show that Thamud was in the north of Arabian Peninsula, in the Revelation of Baha'u'llah, Volume 4, Mr. Taharzadeh writes that the people of Ad and Thamud inhabited a large tract of country in southern Arabia. The people of Thamud were the successors to the culture and civilization of Ad. Tradition has it that they were a younger branch of the same tribe and lived in the same regions of the Arabian Peninsula. Thamud himself is also said to be a descendant of Noah. There is no doubt that both our respectful and honored authors have got the facts right. One may therefore conclude that the Thamud tribe may have originated from the south of Arabia, but must have eventually settled in the northern region of the Arabian Peninsula. Hence their location or place where they settled became known as Thamud in the north, as is also marked in the old map of the Arabian Peninsula.
Thank you. So you see, this is the Arabian Peninsula, right? This map shows that. And the 7 countries we mentioned, Yemen is here, this is Oman, this is Emirates, then Bahrain is here, this one here, and so on, the 7 countries that we mentioned. And of course, Iraq is over here, and Jordan is here, Israel is here, and this little triangular peninsula, that's the Sinai Peninsula, part of Egypt, from where we will read later on that Moses traveled from here and took the people to the promised land, which is now Israel. And the people of Ad, in whom, amongst whom Prophet Hud appeared, was here in the south. And somewhere here is Samud. Mr. Tarzada says that they were younger generation appearing from the tribe or people of Ad in this area, but they have then moved to this area where they settled, and the area over here, the place near Medina on the western portion of the Arabian Peninsula, that place becomes known as Samud. So the tribes may have originated here, but then they have spread all along this peninsula. Okay, anything else on that? Any point of importance in that people want to share with us? Any one of you want to share with us? No. Okay, so we can read this next paragraph, paragraph 11. Do we have a volunteer?
I will read it. I mentioned I will this time.
Okay. Oh yes, Roya Jan.
Okay.
Yeah.
Later, the beauty of the countenance of the friend of God appeared from behind the veil, and another standard of divine guidance was hoisted. He invited the people of the earth to the light of righteousness. The more passionately he exhorted them, the fierce waxed the envy and waywardness of the people, except those who wholly detached themselves from all save God, and ascended on the wings of certainty to the station which God hath exalted beyond the comprehension of man. It is well known what a host of enemies besieged him,
Besieged.
until at last the fears of envy and rebellion were kindled against him. And after the episode of the fire came to pass, he, the lamp of God among men, was, as recorded in all books and chronicles, expelled from his city.
Okay. Now, he says later the beauty of the countenance of the friend of God. Who is the friend of God? Anyone would know?
Is
Okay.
Abraham?
Abraham, yes, absolutely. Appeared from behind the veil. And another standard of divine guidance was hoisted. And this means that he has established another religion amongst the people. And like those passed before him, the messengers, the more passionately, Baha'u'llah says, he taught these people his teachings, the fiercer, the more stronger was their opposition to him. And then he mentions that themselves from all save God and ascended on the wings of, except those who wholly detach themselves. Remember in the paragraph 1, Baha'u'llah talks about detachment and the prerequisites that we have to associate it for becoming detached, you know, our ears, our tongue, our everything detached from the worldly things. And once we do that, then we become those people who can comprehend what the messenger of God tells us. Otherwise, he says otherwise those people who do not have these qualifications, they will never have the comprehension to understand these messengers of God. And then he talks about the episode of fire and so on. So these terminologies we are going to read in the notes after this. I just want to see if anyone has any ideas on this paragraph that before we read the notes would like to share it with us. Please. One thing that it makes at least me happy is that when people raise their hands and they volunteer to say something or do. Please. Any ideas on this paragraph?
I just have a note of something that stands out to me, but what it means, I'm not sure. But it's the one where Baha'u'llah says, the more passionately he exhorted them, the fiercer waxed the envy and waywardness of the people.
Yes.
Which, I mean, maybe that sounds obvious, or you know, it maybe has then a reflection in our dispensation, because, you know, Baha'u'llah definitely through a lot of love put the message out to the world. So the fierceness against, I assume, our faith will be very strong as well. I mean, it was also in the time of Baha'u'llah. Maybe it would only refer to that, but it sounds like the equal amount of passion that was given, the amount of badness that came back, which is quite a sad thing. And yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, I'd also like to add to that. I think that sometimes when you, I know definitely when I found the faith,
Yes.
you know, there was a lot of opposition happening within my family, and there was also opposition just happening within my, you know, I've been shown this new light, but yeah, I definitely did question it, and I did ask a lot of questions. And I think also, you know, I think that's natural. So I think when you are teaching it to people, when you are showing a new light, something new, people do tend to question it. And you've got to be prepared, you know. I definitely do think, you know, in the beginning I thought this faith was all lovely and it was all rainbows and unicorns and all this. But as I'm deepening into it, I can see that it's more than that, that there is a bit of a fight in it. Don't know, just a thought.
Wonderful, Sandra. Yes, of course. You know, I don't forget once we had gone on pilgrimage in our group, there was a young fellow like you, Sandra, and he had recently accepted the faith. He had done investigation himself and he had become Baha'i. He was a Christian and he had become a Baha'i. And I asked him, how long is it since you have become a Baha'i? And he was kind of offended. He said to me, what do you mean by that? I was born a Baha'i, but the faith found me 6 months ago. You see, so those people who see, for me, I consider myself, you know, I was given to it by my parents because I was born into a family. It's not a big deal. But people who accept themselves, the faith, they have a different station. You know, there is a writing of the Bab. Is written to one of the letters of living. And he says to him, this writing of the Bab is in one of the revelations of Baha'u'llah by Adib Taherzadeh. The Bab says to him, you know, when him whom God shall make manifest appears, if you don't accept him, I will disown you. Why? Perhaps because he was highly informed. He was one of the letters of living, and he had no excuse not to recognize Baha'u'llah. So he says to him, if you don't recognize him, I will disown you. And he says, but on the other hand, if a Christian, he gives an example, a Christian, he says, on the other hand, if a Christian recognizes him, he is the apple of my eye. Now, how about that? This is for people like you, Sandra, who see the faith, they have very pure heart, and they become a believer. Sorry, good, my wife is not here, otherwise she would tell me off because I talk too much.
Beheshti, that was the Bab that said that?
Is what?
That was the Bab that said that?
The Bab, yes.
Okay.
It's in, I can't remember, maybe if I find it, I'll put it on the group. The writing is translated into English and it's in one of the revelations. I'll remember, I'll make a note, I'll remember to put it in the writing of the Bab. Okay. So we go ahead. We go to paragraph 11. All right. Somebody did say friend of God, Abraham, right? So who wants to read this note now? about friend of God?
I think Tina was volunteering before. Maybe she would like to read.
Sheila,
Tina.
Tina,
Sure, I'd be
please.
happy to read.
Go on. Yes, Tina.
Is it from Prophet Abraham, you said?
Yes.
Okay. Abdu'l-Baha and some answered questions, and a special blessing is conferred on some families and some generations. Thus it is an especial blessing that from among the descendants of Abraham should have come all the prophets of the children.
Sorry to disturb you. Did you read from there, just from the top?
Oh, sure. No, I'll go from there.
Yeah.
Friend of God, Abraham, born in Ur of the Chaldees in 1813 BC, died 1644 BC. Friend of God, here a title of Abraham, the father of the faithful, founder of Jewish nation and an ancestor of Baha'u'llah, who is of his descent through Abraham's wife, Keturah. See below Abdu'l-Baha's account of Abraham and some answered questions, chapter 4.
Well,
See also numerous references in the Bible and the Quran. See also Íqán, paragraph 67. Prophet Abraham. Abdu'l-Baha and some answered questions, and a special blessing is conferred on some families and some generations. Thus it is an especial blessing that from among the descendants of Abraham should have come all the prophets of the children of Israel. This is a blessing that God has granted to this descent, to Moses from his father and mother, to a Christ from his mother's line, also to Muhammad and the Bab, and to all the prophets and the holy manifestations of Israel. The Blessed Beauty is also a lineal descendant of Abraham, for Abraham had other sons besides Ishmael and Isaac, who in those days migrated to the lands of Persia and Afghanistan, and the Blessed Beauty is one of their descendants.
okay. So this is clear, right? That Abdu'l-Baha is saying that those families or generations who are descendant of Abraham have a special blessing. See, when he says all the prophets of the children of Israel, they are descendants of Abraham. And you know, there are in the Old Testament, I think it's in the Old Testament that it mentions about 48 prophets, like Isaac and Jacob and Moses and Aaron and Joshua, Samuel, and so on. 48 of those messengers are mentioned. They are all descendants of Abraham. Moses as well, of course. Then he says Christ and Muhammad and the Bab, they are descendants of Abraham. And Baha'u'llah is also a descendant through his wife, through Abraham's wife, Keturah, remember? Because he says, and how that happened is that his other sons, Abraham's other sons, you know, Ishmael and Isaac we know, but we don't know about his other sons who migrated to Persia and Afghanistan, and there they got settled, married, and that's how Baha'u'llah became descendants from them. Okay, this paragraph, please. Who? Chinajan, you want to read it?
Would you like me to continue? Sure.
Oh.
Baha'u'llah states, that which thou hast heard concerning Abraham, the friend of the All-Merciful, is the truth, and no doubt is there about it. the voice of God commanded him to offer up Ishmael as a sacrifice, so that his steadfastness in the faith of God and his detachment from all else but him may be demonstrated unto men. The purpose of God, moreover, was to sacrifice him as a ransom for the sins and iniquities of all the peoples of the earth. This same honor, Jesus, the Son of Mary, besought the one true God, exalted be his name and glory, to confer upon him. For the same reason was Hossein offered up as a sacrifice by Muhammad, the apostle of God.
Okay, so this appears to be a tablet in response of somebody who is asking Baha'u'llah a question, and he says to him that whatever you have heard about Abraham is right. And it's the topic seems to be sacrificing their offspring. Many prophets have done that, right? And few of them here, Abdul Baha mentioned, Ishmael, the son of Abraham, was a sacrifice from Abraham. Okay? And he says here, Jesus Christ, he always prayed to God and he besought God to confer this on himself so that Christ himself becomes a sacrifice. And that's exactly what happened. He sacrificed himself for the reason Baha'u'llah has given here for Ishmael, who was sacrificed. Hussein, who was the grandson of Muhammad through his daughter and son-in-law Ali, Imam Hussein, who was the third Imam, was also, remember, he was beheaded in Karbala in a war, and that Muhammad says he was a sacrifice for God. Although the incident happened after Muhammad. And we know Ahmad, the Bab had a son, Ahmad, who he says that was sacrificed, I think he says, for him whom God shall make manifest. Anybody wants to add anything to that? About the sacrifice?
I guess just to add for the Mirza Mehdi as well, who I think is on the same, or was that mentioned and I missed it?
Who?
Mirza Mehdi.
Oh yeah, Mirza Mehdi. No, it wasn't mentioned actually. You're absolutely right. Yes. So that Baha'u'llah says he actually wanted, he asked him, didn't he? Tell us the story, what happened at the end when he had the fall.
I don't think I'd be the best to tell the story. I'll let you tell it, Dr. Mehdi.
Well, you know, Mirza Mehdi fell from a roof while they were in the prison in Akka, and he sustained a fatal injury. And while he was dying, I think Baha'u'llah went to his room and he asked to be alone with him for a while. And he asked him Baha'u'llah asked Mirza Mehdi if he wanted him to save his life. This is just a crude way of explaining. And he said, no, I'd rather be sacrificed so that the doors open for the believers to come and visit you. And so he passed away as that, and Baha'u'llah says that was a sacrifice in the way of God. Right. This is another quotation from Baha'u'llah. about friend of God, about Abraham. Who's reading it? Sandra, you want to do it while you're on the screen?
Okay. Subsequently, Syriac became prominent among the existing languages. The sacred scriptures of former times were revealed in that tongue. Later, Abraham, the friend of God, appeared and shed upon the world the light of divine revelation. The language he spoke while he crossed the Jordan became known as Hebrew. Ibrani, which meaneth the language of the crossing. The books of God and the sacred scriptures were then revealed in that tongue, and not until after a considerate lapse of time did Arabic become the language of revelation. Meanings from the writings of Baha'u'llah.
Yes. So now we know this Syriac language was the old language in which revelations came through these prophets, through those languages. And then Hebrew was the language, and later on, a lot later, Arabic became the language. And of course, Muhammad, all his revelation was through this language, and Baha'u'llah as well, in Arabic as well as Persian language, revealed the word of God. I thought this point, because Abraham is connected to that, and this point of language was of interest for you. That's why I put it there. Okay, now a little bit of history of where Abraham came from. Who's going to read it? Is Adam not there today?
I'm here.
Adam, you're here. Okay, you read it.
Just hiding.
Good. He
Yes.
unveiled you now.
Yes, yes. Now I'm unveiled and I won't stop talking.
Okay.
Okay, so Abraham's place of origin. Is that where I'm starting?
Yes, please.
Okay. Abraham's place of origin, the Old Testament refers to Ur of Chaldees as Abraham's native city located in the regions of Sumeria, Mesopotamia. His banishment from there beginning, according to biblical and historical accounts, circa 1950 BC. In addition to the Judaism, Christianity, and the Baha'i faith, Abraham is also recognized by Islam to be the messenger of God. The most holy place in Islam, the Kaaba in the Hijazi city of Mecca, is described in the Islamic traditions to have originally been built by Abraham and his son Ishmael as the first house of worship on earth. Ur was an important Sumerian state in ancient Mesopotamia, located in the south of Iraq. Ur is located in the west of Nasiriyah in modern-day Iraq. The city dates from the Ubaid period, about 380 BC. In all probability, Ur is the Ur of Chaldees, mentioned in the Bible as the birthplace of the patriarch Abraham. Traditionally believed to have lived sometime in the 2nd millennium BC, Ur is mentioned 4 times in the Torah or Old Testament, with the distinction of the Kasdim, traditionally referred in English as the Ur of Chaldees. Ur is an important archaeological site, first excavated in 1853 AD on behalf of the British Museum. Interesting. A total amount of 1,850 burials were uncovered, including 16 that were described as royal tombs containing many valuable artifacts, including the Standard of Ur. Most of the royal tombs were dated to about 2600 BC. Much of what we know of the people and cultures of early Mesopotamia come from the material uncovered in the royal cemetery at Ur. The first dynasty of Ur seems to have had great wealth and power, as shown by the lavish remains of the royal cemetery at Ur. Mesanepada is the first king mentioned in the list of the kings of Sumer, and appears to have lived in the 26th century BC. Shall I continue?
Yes, please. So what is this standard, which is, we talk about the standard of Ur, which is in possession of the British Museum. What is this? Go on, read it.
The Standard of Ur is a Sumerian artifact of the 3rd millennium BC that is now in the collection of the British Museum. It comprises a hollow wooden box measuring about 22 centimeters wide by 50 centimeters long, with scenes of war and peace represented on each side through elaborately inlaid mosaic of shell, red limestone, and lapis lazuli. It dates to the first dynasty of Ur during the early dynastic period and is around 4,600 years old. Although interpreted as a standard by its discoverer, its original purpose remains a mystery. It was found in a royal tomb in Ur in the 1920s next to the skeleton of a ritually sacrificed man who may have been its bearer.
Okay, so, I thought this little description about where Abraham came from would be useful to us, because when people talk about the old prophets appearing and they say it appeared in Babylon or in the Holy Land or in Arabia, we don't know exactly where it is. So it is nice to have a little idea about it. So Abraham was originally from the people, from a people called Ur. And they were, here is Iraq, here. This is Iraq. And Mesopotamia is somewhere here, between the two rivers. I can't enlarge this. Now, this is more prominent here. So this is the relation of Iraq to other countries here in Asia, right? And this is Iraq here. These are the two rivers, the Tigris and the Euphrates River, and Mesopotamia is between these two rivers. And Ur is situated here in the south of Iraq. That is where Abraham appeared. And then he was banished from here all the way to Syria, somewhere here, and to Israel, which is over here, eventually. He ended up over there. So Ur is in this south of Iraq. Now, when they say Hijaz, many a times we come across the word Hijaz or Hijazi people. Hijaz is always referred to the people of Arabia, and specifically this area of Saudi Arabia, which is the western side of this Arabian Peninsula. So when they say Hijaz, is this part, and that includes Mecca and Medina in it, the most important cities in the Muslim religion. Okay, now, anything anybody wants to say or add to that? No? We move on to the episode of fire that Baha'u'llah mentions in the last sentence of that paragraph. Let's read about that. What was it and what happened? Who is going to read it? Friend. Louis, you haven't done anything for a long time. Let's ask you to do that.
Sure. From 11, episode of fire.
Yep.
Behold how the people, as a result of the verdict pronounced by the divines of his age, have cast Abraham, the friend of God, into fire. Gleanings. It states in the Quran, they said, burn him and avenge your goals. If you do this, it will be well. And when Abraham was cast into the burning pile, we said, O fire, be thou cold, and a preservation unto Abraham. Quran. The traditions relate that by Nimrod's order, a large space was enclosed and eretha, and filled with a vast quantity of wood, which being set on fire burned so fiercely that none dared venture near it. Then they bound Abraham and put him into an engine, shot him into the midst of the fire, from which he was preserved by the angel Gabriel, who was sent to his assistance, the fire burning only the cords with which he was bound. He was delivered by the divine intervention.
Okay, so this is straightforward, isn't it? The Baha'u'llah says that like all the other prophets, the divines, they pronounce the verdict so that he is put into fire, he is burnt. And Quran quotation says that what God said at that time, that people said, they said, it means people said to burn him and take your revenge, and they did it. But he was saved by the will of God. Okay, Nimrud, we will read about him over here, who Nimrud was. He was one of the famous hunters, very strong man, and a king for a while. And it says that they created a big fire in Eritha. Now I've been trying for a long time to see where this place is, and I could not find it. But I found some reference to Eritha, which refers to a priestess who was in Greece, much far away. Perhaps this Eritha is a place in Iraq, in south of Iraq, in Ur, may have been named after that priestess. I don't know. Does anyone know about this? Where this fire was created and Abraham was shot into it, but God saved him. Okay? It's very similar to the story of the Bab, isn't it? When they shot him, and the first time they were not successful. Okay, let's read about this Nimrod, see who he was.
I think Sally raised her hand. Did you have a question?
No, Dr. Beheshti pointed, I was just going to point out it's so similar to the story of the Bab.
Yes. Wonderful, yes. Anything else anybody would want to share with us?
I just had a quick, there's a reference in the Seven Valleys. I think it's a poem quoted. A lover is he who's chill in the fire, and knower is he who's dry in the sea. And it seems that this is a reference to Abraham and also Moses.
Mm-hmm.
Now, it kind of clicked. So I thought that was interesting.
Yes. Where was this? Is whose writing is that? Who's that? Is that Adam?
Yeah, it's Adam, and it's in the Seven Valleys. And I don't know exactly. I haven't looked at the footnote of what the reference is, but you could. I think it's in one of the first couple valleys.
Right. Yes.
Maybe in the Valley of Knowledge.
Yeah. I don't recall it. Anybody? Yes, this term fire is used a lot again in the writings. Some places it is used as a warmth, you know, the warmth of love and this kind of thing towards other people. And in other places, it refers to this fire in which Prophet Abraham was thrown, as well the fire of Mount Sinai. But I don't know if there is any other, what do you call it, meaning of it.
Tablet of Ahmad says
Yes,
that
yes,
fire of be fire for enemies, right? No.
yes, my enemies. And many people, you know, the non-Baha'i people take that in a wrong way, but that's in a very good way, because one of the nature of fire is warmth. And that is what Baha'u'llah means over here. To extend warmness and warmth to your enemies, not like fire, like gunfire or anything like that, which people say. Okay, who was that last person who said about Tablet of Ahmad? You may read one of these paragraphs, please. Okay. Hello.
Savi, would you like to read?
Where are we? I'm sorry.
Yeah, Nimrod.
Nimrod. Okay. Nimrod was ancient king of Babylon, identified as the persecutor of Abraham in Islamic traditions. In Bible dictionaries, Nimrod, powerful, is described as a brave man, a hunter, a champion, governor of the world, and the builder of Babylon. Babylon for some time was called the land of Nimrod. Islamic traditions state that because he was nourished by a tigress at the order of God, he became known as Nimrod, as Nimrod means tigress in Arabic. The account of Nimrod and Abraham and the throwing of the ladder, the throwing of the ladder into the fire have all been related by
Majlisi, he was a writer.
Okay, Majlisi in the 5th volume of the Bihar Anvar.
Bihar Anwar, yes, literally seas of light, yes.
Okay, an important collection of Shiite traditions compiled in some 14 volumes by Muhammad Baskiri-i-Malisi at the close of the 16th century.
That was this Majlisi's full name.
Okay.
Baqir al-Majlisi. Okay.
Keep going.
Yes.
Accounts of Nimrod's dreams have been related in various books, including Kitáb-i-Íqán of
Qisasul Anbiya, Qisasul Anbiya.
of Abu Ishqa Nishaburi,
Yeah, he's another writer. Okay. Yeah.
which states, Nimrod was told by the priest that in the coming 2 or 3 years, a child will be separated from his mother, and your sovereignty will be demolished by him. Nimrod ordered to kill every child who became separated from his mother. This order was carried out for 3 years. It has been related that Nimrod had a terrible dream. He asked the wise men its interpretation. In interpreting it, one of them announced him the advent of Abraham. Some of the ancient accounts are contradictory in reporting this dream. One of them says that Nimrod's personal astrologer, Azar, dreamed the dream of his coming destruction. Majlisi relates in volume 14 of the Bihar from Kufi that the Imam Sadiq has stated that this Azar was Abraham's father and was the private astrologer of Nimrod. One night, Azar understood from the arrangement of the stars that a boy would appear in that land and who would destroy Nimrod and his followers. In the morning, he informed Nimrod about this matter and said to him that very soon the seed of this boy will be fixed, the womb of his mother. Nimrod was astonished and asked whether the boy was already in the womb of the mother. Azar answered that it was not yet, and that Nimrod could order that men not cohabit with their women. And so it was that no woman was allowed to be with husband. But Azar himself slept with his wife, and they themselves conceived Abraham. Azar, from the position of the stars, knew that he would burn his son, but he did not know that God would save him.
Yes. So that's a little story. I'll send you online so you can read it and maybe retain it. Here tonight, I'm sure you're a bit tired, but you got the gist of it, haven't you? Okay, now some people question to say, ancient king of Nimrod was ancient king of Babylon. Where is Babylon? And here is a little description about it. Babylon was the capital city of Babylonia, a kingdom in the ancient Mesopotamia between the 18th and the 6th centuries BC. It was built along the left and right banks of Euphrates River with steep embankments to contain the river's seasonal floods. So this guy, Nimrod, he was ruling this place, which was along the 2 sides of river Euphrates. So that's in Iraq, again, in Mesopotamia. Mesopotamia, I can never pronounce that right. Okay, now, Abraham, after he was thrown into the fire, he was preserved. He did not die, and the fire became cold, and his life was saved. And then he was expelled from his city, similar to the banishment of Baha'u'llah from Iran. So let's read a few quotations about that banishment, please. Somebody? Who do we have?
I'll read it.
Okay, good.
Expelled from his city, Shoghi Effendi characterizes the banishment of Abraham from Ur of the Chaldees to the Promised Land, a banishment which, in the multitudinous benefits it conferred upon so many diverse peoples, faith and nations, constitutes the nearest historical approach to the incalculable blessings destined to be vouchsafed in this day and in future ages to the whole human race, in direct consequence of the exile suffered by him whose course is the flower and fruit of all previous revelations.
Yes. Can somebody explain this a little bit? It's, you know how the beloved guardian's English is. It's very deep and perhaps not easy to understand, but maybe somebody can explain this. Ushan is probably our best bet. Can you?
I feel like I wasn't paying attention. The banishment of Abraham. What would you like me to?
Okay, this paragraph, I think the guardian means that Abraham was banished, he was exiled, right? From Ur in the south of Iraq to the promised land, which is Israel. And
So,
he says, huh?
so I think I get you now. Yeah.
Okay, go ahead.
As in the influence that Abraham's exile has had on the world has been so big. That's the simplest way to put it. All the prophets have been related to him. All of the world's, or most of the world's major religions have come out of that exile. And I think, and then does he say, and then what will happen when Baha'u'llah's exile was even bigger? He went from one land to another land to another land, and the effect of that will be even huger on the world. Is that what you wanted me to?
Exactly. It means, you see, he says that he was only exiled from Iraq to the Holy Land. And then, of course, Abdul Baha in a later one, he says, he explains even more than this. And he says, this banishment could be compared with what Baha'u'llah suffered in his exile. And he doesn't say Baha'u'llah, future ages to whom human race, in direct consequences of the exile suffered by him, that's Baha'u'llah, whose cause is the flower and fruit of all previous revelation. So this is exactly what you said, Oshan. That the consequences would be even greater because of that exile that Baha'u'llah went through. Okay, see what Shoghi Effendi says. While you're there, Oshan, you read it then.
Abdul Baha, yeah.
This one.
Shoghi Effendi. Abdul Baha, after enumerating in his some answered questions the far-reaching consequences of Abraham's banishment, significantly affirms that since the exile of Abraham from Ur to Aleppo in Syria produced this result, we must consider what will be the effect of the exile of Baha'u'llah in his several removes from Tehran to Baghdad, from thence to Constantinople, to Rumelia, and to the Holy Land.
Yeah. Okay, so the consequences is going to be a lot greater, right? Okay, where is Rumelia? Here we are.
Modern day Thrace.
Yeah.
Or maybe that was the older name. The
Rome
European
means
part of
Roman or
Turkey.
Greek, huh? Yes. So here we are. Just read it. It'll explain.
Okay. Rum means Roman or Greek. Eli means land, and Rumelia means land of the Romans in Ottoman Turkish.
Yes.
It refers to the lands conquered by the Ottoman Empire in the Balkan Peninsula, which formerly belonged to the Byzantine Empire, known by its contemporaries as the Roman Empire.
Yes. Here it is. See, this is the peninsula it's talking about. And it was the Roman Empire, this area. See, Greece, Turkey, all these portions, right? So in the other map, we saw the two peninsula. This is the Arabian Peninsula. This one, this little one, is the Sinai Peninsula. And this here, this one, this is the Roman Peninsula, the Roman Empire here. Greece is here, Turkey is here, Israel is here, Saudi Arabia is here. So all these three peninsula, this one is the Roman Peninsula. Okay? Here we go. Okay, just the last thing. The tomb of Abraham, where is it? Here's the description. This is the last paragraph, I think it's for. Somebody read this, please. Anybody?
I can read.
Go on then.
Tomb of Abraham is believed to be at the heart of strife in the West Bank, in the ancient city of Hebron. Jews call it the Cave of the Patriarchs, while Muslims call it Ibrahimi Mosque. At Hebron, Abraham purchased the cave of Machpelah as a burial place for his wife, Sarah, and it became a family sepulchre. According to the tradition, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, with their wives, Sarah, Rebekah, and Leah, were buried in the cave. Christian occupancy yielded to Muslim rule in 678 AD, when a Muslim army took control of Hebron. Muslims, like Jews and Christians, venerated Abraham, and they continued the tradition of taking great care of the site. They converted the Christian basilica into the Mosque of Ibrahim, but it was reconverted to a church when the Christian Crusaders successfully invaded in 1100 AD.
Right? So it is here. This is the West Bank, see? This is the West, this is Israel. This color here. And this is West Bank, as it's marked here. And Hebron is this town over here. It's believed that he's buried here. It's a monument, and people go and visit it. It's a big building around it, and people go and visit there. So it went from in Hebron, purchased cave by, it was in the hands of Abraham, people, the Jewish people, then it was the Christians, and then the Muslims. And so each have a claim over it, but the interesting thing is that each religion, Christian, Muslims, or the Jews, they all respected because of Abraham being buried there. That's what they believe. Now, this is what I was talking to you about. Eritha, this is mentioned, you know, where we read it earlier, that by the order of Nimrod, Abraham was thrown into the fire at Eritha. Now, Eritha I've investigated, I've looked into, and Eritha is a priestess, was one of the priestess in Messenian town, which is in Greece. And it's the name of a person, not name of a place. And I just wondered if any one of you would know about this or can find out about it. Maybe you want to share it with us next time we meet. Eritha.
I just had a quick question for you on that, Dr. Peshti. Did you only search in English, or did you also search in Arabic?
No, in English. In English.
Because it's from the Bihar al Anwar, right? So maybe it's.
Yes, I tried looking to find Bihar al Anwar online. Bihar Anwar online. But I couldn't. But I will keep trying. If you guys are better with computer, I am very ignorant with computer thing. So if you could, maybe next time you can share whatever you find. Okay, in the map, let's go back to the map. Here, you see, whereas Abraham was here in the south of Iraq, and this town in Greece is somewhere here. See the distance? Not the town, sorry. The priestess was here. That kind of a distance. So the place here, maybe it was named after her. I don't know. It would be an interesting thing to find out. Anyway, sorry we have gone over time as usual, but I hope you're not tired and maybe you enjoyed it. So if you have anything to add or any comments, please do. Or should we say an ending prayer and see when we can have the next meeting. Somebody's going to say, I think this Sunday we won't have any access to Zoom that Louis kindly has offered for us. He's busy somewhere else, and I think Sunday as well, a lot of people have got feast on that day. I think tomorrow is the feast day, but other people are having it on that Sunday. So it was suggested by our team to cancel this coming Sunday and have it next Friday, if it's all right with everyone. Okay? So the next session, Louis, is next Friday, right?
Correct, unless someone has a Zoom account or anything where you can meet on Sunday.
I think it'll be sensible because we are also having our feast on that evening on Zoom.
Okay.
Okay, who is going to say ending prayer? This May Firuz man has been very quiet. Oh, we've got Afnan there as well. Wow. Wonderful to see you, Afnan.
Hello, Pa. Lovely to see you as well.
Thank you. Thank you. So, maybe a couple of prayers. Shall we volunteer May for a prayer and anyone else? Or one prayer is enough? Okay, May, June, July, please go ahead.
Hello, friends. Okay. Thy name is my healing, oh my God, and remembrance of thee is my remedy. Nearness to thee is my hope, and love for thee is my companion. Thy mercy to me is my healing, and my succor in both this world and the world to come. The all bountiful, the all knowing, the all wise, that my God, of thee is my remedy. Nearest to thee is my hope, and love for thee is my companion. Thy mercy to me is my healing. This world and the world to come, thou very art, the all bountiful, the all knowing, the all wise.
Okay, thank you, boys and girls, for being patient. So we'll see you next Friday.
Thank you very much.
Thank you all.